the reason that we're anxious is because we're not okay with the outcome being what we don't expect it to be. This is gonna be hard if my friends really gonna pressure me like this. Like, what's up? We got beef? Like, you not speaking to me?
I feel like whenever I'm just in flow, things just be working. And when God gives you a message and you're being used as a vessel, it is so important for you to release that information to the other person.
If something's not in your sphere of experience, it will never be a reality for you. And those types of people around you, I feel like, are really important to the success of your transitions, of your growth. Even if you don't feel like it, open your mouth.
You're gonna do it.
Open your mouth.
He's looking at the master plan like, girl, come on, you're gonna move to Dallas. I was
Yeah,
like,
that
she's
is
speaking
crazy.
with such conviction. What's going on? Welcome to the Empowered Era, brought to you by the Elizabethan Era. I'm your host, Elizabeth Osandu. Some call me Liz, some call me Lizzie. And today we have a special guest, my girl, Kayla B.
Hey, what's
Say
going
hey.
on? Hey, everyone. Nice to meet y'all. Very excited to be here.
I love that. I love
Very
it.
excited to be in the seats.
Yes.
The hot seat today.
No, and we are in Dallas, Texas.
Yes.
So let's just talk about a little bit how we met.
Because, we met like through a mutual friend named E. So that was really cool. I feel like the transition in me moving here, the timing has just been like a natural, just like flow on our friendship. But we first met when we went on vacation in April.
Girl, that trip was good.
Yeah, that was a fun
And that
trip.
trip was needed.
Why do you say that?
I feel like that trip was needed because it was April and there was a lot going on in all of our lives as far as just like us being busy. Yeah. So it was really nice and like refreshing to have like that quick getaway before getting back into reality.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was definitely a girls trip, and there was no fighting, no weird stuff. So that was different for me because that was the first girls trip I feel like I've been on that wasn't my friend circle. You know, like going on one of my
going
friends'
with
girls
someone else.
trips. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was cool. I feel
love
like
that.
we didn't really connect then though.
We
just
didn't.
got to know each other, and
We
we were
said,
like
like, highs and
cordial.
hellos.
Yeah. And then when we came down here for when I came down here for Woman Evolve, once again, our mutual friend E was randomly staying with you that weekend. I ended up coming to Dallas, and I feel like that was the weekend. It was like, okay.
That was the weekend that really transformed everything.
Yeah.
Like April was like a, hi, hello, what's your name?
Yeah.
And then when we got into fall, everything literally aligned. It was like, as soon as you were walking into my apartment,
Oh yeah,
you had
from
mentioned,
the
like,
moment.
oh my gosh, you need to get on this call.
Yeah.
You need to come to New York. And I was like, what?
I completely even forgot
I
that.
was like,
Yeah,
she's
that is
speaking
crazy.
with such conviction. What's going on?
Yeah, I like walked in and it was just a lot. But basically I just had like a whole alignment on like Liz's life, and I'm just like, I think you should come here. I just got this insight like 5 minutes ago as I walked in here
Literally.
that both you and E at that moment literally needed. Like it was just kind of crazy. So then we all ended up going to New York like a week after, literally.
And it was
A fun
great.
time.
It was a great
New York
time.
was a good time for
New
Sisters
York was
in
like
Sales.
Chef's Kiss. The Sisters in Sales conference was
Yeah.
like, it was so many revelations to build up to what happened at Women Evolve, because we were there, I remember on the last day, like on the floor, and we're all crying because of what God is doing in our individual lives
Yeah.
and the testaments that were happening. But it was like, he was on stage mentioning things that were so specific to me, to E, to you.
Yeah.
And literally, I think it was Pastor Teray that was like, you're gonna move to Dallas.
Yeah,
And
it
you were
was
like, huh?
And it was the way he like turned and looked, like it was just the weirdest thing. And then you and E just like look at me like,
Literally.
I think that's your sign. And I was like, I've been waiting on a sign from God. And then I got back to Atlanta and I finally was able to like rent my house. So it was
And
just
you
like
did it so
perfect
fast.
alignment. Yeah. No, it happened really fast. I was like, I knew I had to move here by the top of the year just because I would have lost my rental permit. I literally got home, I prayed to God, and I was just like, if I am able to rent my house, this is my sign that I'm just leaving. Like, I'm just out. Like, I'm not wasting no more time. I'm about to start packing. I started packing my house up even when I got back from Dallas.
Literally.
Before knowing for real I was going to move. I'm just like, I'm going to just be ready for when, like, the moment hits to just get out of Atlanta. Because I had been feeling that I was going to leave Atlanta. But, yeah, and that day I got an email back, and it was like, you've just been moved to the top of the rental list, and you're allowed to rent. And I was
remember
like,
you called me and you were like, this feels like another sign. I'm gonna start looking at different places in Dallas.
Yeah.
Like, the turnaround was like, the next 2 weeks is what it
yeah,
felt like.
that was
Hey, I'm
mid-September, and I moved here November 18th. So that's like 6 weeks it took me to like really get back,
Crazy.
figure it out. I booked one more day to come down here. And I was just like, all right, in 5 weeks, I'm going to go back to Dallas and look for an apartment. And at this point, I didn't have any tenants renting my house or anything.
Girl.
And the day that I literally came down here to find my apartment, I got a text from the realtor at 1:11 p.m. I literally distinctly remember.
Not the
and
111.
it was so weird. And she was like, there's somebody that I was touring, as I was touring in Dallas, somebody at the exact same time was touring my house in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And when we finished the tour, she texted me like, basically they want to move forward and they need you out this week. And I was just like, God?
No, I feel like that's a full testament of like, when God tells you to move, don't overthink it. Literally just move. Like, don't rely on your plans. Literally, he's got it all planned out. He's looking at the master plan like, girl, come on.
Yeah.
And you're sitting here like, wait, but what if? But what I like about you is that you don't overthink things. Or at least it doesn't seem like you overthink things. You literally will jump into it. If an idea comes to mind, execute. And I love that.
I feel like I'm like that in life in different areas. Because I feel like I do overthink like things like we were just talking about, like maybe like a relationship or like things like that. But when it comes to like my work ethic and just knowing something is kind of for me, and I guess I should take that approach and just trust myself more in certain areas of my life, because it's like you are so relentless in other areas of your life where it's like, what causes you to even doubt other things when it's been proven that when you just make a move and you execute and you feel like it's right, things flow so effortlessly. Or it's a sign that when you're out of alignment, you're naturally going to feel those things that just don't flow effortlessly. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like we both relate as far as our athletic background. I remember my coach in college would tell me like, Lizzie, I feel like the reason you're not breaking your times is because you're overthinking it.
Right.
Because like I ran the 400 and I'm thinking, okay, you got to stride and then sprint and then stride and then sprint so that you don't lock up at the end.
Right.
And he was like, the moments when you don't think and you just run, you hit your time.
Yeah.
But whenever you're in your head, you're overthinking everything and it's not working out. And so translating similar to what you mentioned to all other areas of life, I feel like whenever I'm just in flow, things just be working.
Yes.
But whenever I'm in my head thinking a little too hard, it's like, maybe you're thinking too hard because God doesn't even want you operating like that.
Exactly. And that's something I'm learning to like, I think when I think of trusting God now, it's a space where I'm like, the reason you're anxious is simply because you don't trust God in this area of your life. You're freaking out because you don't have that trust. So even yesterday, I feel like, you know, we were just talking about this, but I feel like the reason that we're anxious is because we're not okay with the outcome being what we don't expect it to be.
But say that again.
You get what I'm saying? The
say
reason that we're anxious is because we're not okay with an unexpected outcome. If I knew and I fully trusted God and option A or option B is what he wants for me, then I should not be flustered either way it goes. But if I only have my mindset on option A turning out because that's what's in my heart, that's what I want. Now, when option B is coming into play, or an option C that I didn't even foresee or, you know, particularly have in mind, I'm anxious because I'm like, yeah, I could say I'm trusting God, but at the end of the day, I'm not really cool with this working out outside of Kayla's desires or Kayla's will. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, because it's almost like you're moving in a calculated sense.
Right.
Like it's almost like there's a mathematical equation to gain the trust. Like, well, I'm still going to do this because they say faith without works is dead. So maybe A is still going to happen. And God's like, no, I want you to literally just let me do.
Yes. But you might really want that job. You might really want that home.
Come on.
So it's like you're thinking, as long as I have faith that God is going to do that for me. But it's like, what if that's not what he's even trying to do? And now you're like flustered because you have this dedicated outcome. You know what I'm trying to say?
Hold on. Let's talk about the flusters real quick. First of all, let's dive into this current transition.
Yeah.
This transition that you're in a new city. Things are very different from how life was this time last year.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you feel like God has been telling you in this new season of your life?
To work on the trust, because I feel like I went through my season of isolation and I felt like, oh, it's over now. Like I'm kind of getting more social again. And now there's just another layer, like where I'm learning different things. It's like, yeah, you trusted me in that season, but your season is changing now. The environment's changing. I'm adding different elements and factors. Are you going to still trust me in this season? Because it's like I was feeling like, okay, that's over. And I wasn't like I was like, oh, I don't trust God anymore, or like I'm just thinking I've completed this assignment or I've completed this, but then there's another assignment and there's another level. So I feel like God is definitely elevating me into new spaces, new rooms. My brand is growing, my businesses are growing. So I feel like, yeah, thank you. I feel like I am so goal oriented that my mind processes things like you complete this and you've achieved the goal. But these are transient seasons, is what I would call them in my life right now, where there is no end goal. This is how we're moving, and I'm walking with God, which is, a new walk for me personally. So I've always believed in God, but to like be in my word every day, like faithfully building and nurturing and trying to have a relationship with God, despite what I feel, despite what it looks like.
Yep.
Because there are days where I'm like, this is really hard emotionally, mentally, and I
Talk
don't
about
want to
it.
pray today. Like, or I'm not mentally able to do this, and I have to force myself to be like, even if you don't feel like it, open your mouth.
You gotta do it.
Open your mouth.
That
Okay?
was something that one of my friends was saying. It's the enemy every time. Let's say you like open your Bible or your devotional and you're reading it, but you're just reading it in your head, like how you'd read a book. God is telling you, no, I want you to read those words out loud. Because
Yeah.
the moment you keep reading those words out loud, you'll end up becoming those words. Like
Right.
you'll just out of nowhere just pipe up. Like
Yeah.
now you're just, it's 8 a.m.
Yes.
and now I'm awake.
Yes, literally you.
8 a.m. and now I'm awake. Now what I love is that as we've like met and gotten to know each other, because I feel like I've known of you before. People would mention like, oh yeah, y'all work at the same company, y'all just in different cities. And
Yeah.
This girl reminds me of you. She does content too. Y'all should vibe. Da, da,
Yeah.
da. And then of course we both vibe really well with E.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, at some point we gonna cross paths and meet. What I love about this current journey that God has us in, like as we're growing our friendship, is that God is truly like the center of it.
Yeah.
And we get to see each other evolve and grow, and like I get to see your confidence come to light, you get to see my confidence come to light, and it's just such a, from like September till now, two different women.
Yeah.
We not the same women.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be able to see that, because there's a lot that isn't always showcased on the forefront.
Right.
There's a lot that's happening in your quiet moments.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that happens in the quiet moments that sometimes you don't feel as comfortable confiding with everybody about it. But if somebody's there in real time,
Yeah.
they can be that, like, there's two voices in your head. One would be for visuals, like an angel and like a devil.
Right.
So there's positive thoughts and there's negative thoughts. And we have more negative thoughts than we do positive thoughts just as humans.
Right.
So it's nice to have a friend that whenever you're having that negative thought, they're like, stop second guessing yourself.
Right.
I feel like God is telling you, you need to do this.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm seeing a lot of that in our relationship.
Yeah,
which I
for
love.
sure. I also think it's very organic, like the things that we do in life, and the season that we're in. I don't think it's a mistake that God has definitely connected us in this season, because like even you starting your podcast, like there's a lot that I feel like I've learned. I feel like you're more spiritually mature than me, obviously. Like, this is like not really as new to you. So even having somebody to ask questions or confide in, that support, God's giving us support in very different areas of our life that I feel like are nurturing us in different ways. If that makes sense. So that's really cool for me to see, because I do feel like God is changing my circumstances, but he's also bringing people into my life that serve different purposes at this point. So
Pause, let's talk about that.
interesting.
I like that you brought that up. He's bringing different people into your life that serve a different purpose.
Yeah.
Top 3 categories, if you don't want to name the people, what are those categories that you feel like he's bringing those people into?
I feel like definitely he's bringing like a more spiritual community. I feel like I've always been that type of person, but now I'm starting to realize like I can't have those conversations with everybody. I can't just connect with everybody on that level. So having even people who have a level of understanding of like, the walk I'm trying to have, the mindset shift, just certain things, and being able to respect it, because that's also a really big thing. As you like, I feel like grow into a different person, a lot of people that you may have grew up with or been friends with for a long time, they may not be able to respect the shift that you're going through and be like, this is cool, like, I stopped smoking weed. So like, I'm so happy that I don't have friends who are like, you sure you don't really want to hit this? Or you sure you really don't want to smoke again? Like, it's no pressure. But that would have been way harder for me, that transition, had I had that pressure from
been
close
surrounded
people.
by the
like
temptation.
Exactly. So I've naturally just seen how God has started to align. Like a lot of things I'd be like, dang, like I'm not drinking right now. I don't want my friends to think like this month, like I'm being bougie or
No,
acting
that
weird.
literally happened to me. I
And
went out to a friend's function and I was fasting from drinking at
yeah,
that time. And it's a game night.
yeah,
And so I get it. We're adults. It's like, what do we call them now? Barcades.
yeah,
And the game nights always have liquor associated.
yeah,
But in that season, I was not drinking. And they were like, okay, Liz, you got to take a shot. And I was like, no, I'm not drinking. Everyone looked at me like I said something like
Yeah.
that was just like profane. They were like, wait, Lizzie, is everything okay? What's
Yeah.
wrong? And I was like, I'm literally just not drinking.
yeah.
Huh?
But even so, that's what I'm saying. Like even having somebody like you, I'm like, oh, I'm fasting this week. It's not even no questions about it. It's not like, oh, why or what's going on or it's like
Yeah.
I respect that. And is there any support that you need from me during this time period? So having those types of people around you, I feel like are really important to the success of your transitions, of your growth, because you don't want to be you don't want to have this self-guilt. Like you could have felt guilty in that moment. Like, damn, am I tripping? Like everybody is not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, I just have a boundary right now. I'm focused on certain things. Maybe I want to spend more time with God in this week and I don't want to do that, or I'm fasting for whatever reason that God has led me to do that, so just being able to see, that support show up in my life and not knowing I even needed it. And God just doing that. Because I didn't know I needed it until I was in situations like that where I'm like, ooh, this going to be hard if my friends really going to pressure me like this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And I feel like God doesn't want you to walk in your journey alone. Like he wants you to know that every facet of your life, you're going to cross paths and align with someone else. And I feel like that's what's been super interesting from what I've noticed with my life paths with others. There can be a friend who I haven't caught up with in so long, and I haven't given them the update of the tea on what's going on in life. And that morning I prayed for XYZ. Out of nowhere, that same friend sent me a voice note.
Yeah.
And that friend is Muslim. That friend's not even Christian. She sent me a voice note and she was like, hey, I feel like God just put it on my heart, because at the end of the day, it's all God. I feel like you need to pray for XYZ, the verbatim. And she's saying this voice note and she was like, I just feel like XYZ is going on in your life and da-da-da. And like, we haven't really talked about it, but I really see this going on for you. So I know this is super random and weird, but girl, I just want to let you know, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And for me, I was like, God, you are so real, because even in the earthly realm, how we will get in our head about being so independent, doing things on our own, trying to be protective and not tell many people things. If God wants to speak to you, he's going to show up even through others that may not be of the same religion. But you guys have such similar faiths.
Yeah. And I did a whole video on my YouTube talking about that, where I was like, God will use anybody.
Anybody.
Right? Like, I think a lot of times, and I'm new to like believing in Christ, you know what I'm saying? So it's like been very interesting to me how judgmental a lot of people who are religious.
I apologize on behalf of the Christian community.
Yeah.
Is all I'm
but
saying.
So one thing I will say is I do feel like religions, and that's a whole nother tangent. I feel like religions are very controlling and they do a lot. I feel like it's really about your personal development with Christ, with God. Like when I went on this journey, I specifically like blocked out all religions, all churches, everything, and just tapped in every day and read my Bible with God. And what I came to realize in the revelations, I feel like I had to still the outside voices to come to my own personal relationship with God. Because if not, this person's gonna, you got Baptist, you got this, you got that, you got that. You'll start to get confused as somebody who's new or doesn't have a firm belief and foundation yourself, because everybody's going to be telling you something different. Mm-hmm. So I feel like for me, what really, really helped was silencing the noise and saying, God, I need a relationship with you. I don't want to get that relationship from looking at what Liz does and what this person does, because you may use different vessels in their life to connect with them that might not work with me personally. So I had to figure out, how do you even communicate with me? Because you don't communicate with everybody the same. Mm-mm. So you might be telling, people always ask that question, well, how can you hear God's voice? And I'm kind of like, well, you kind of have to figure that out, because God talks to everybody in completely different ways. The way he talks to me might not be, he might give me a dream. He might give you a sign on a billboard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it's like,
you're going to hear him though.
Yeah.
You're going to hear him. You're going to see him. There's going to be a sign when you're walking with God. I feel like God's going to be so,
I love
God. If you are currently tuning in via the audio, I need you to jump on the YouTube channel and click into this video so you can visually see our friend that's here on the couch with us. And I'm not talking about me or Kayla. I'm talking about a little furry animal by the name of Roman, who made his first appearance. Say hey, baby. But yeah, I feel like you're going to hear God in different ways.
Right.
And he's going to speak to you in a different manner. It could be through others being used as a vessel. And when God gives you a message and you're being used as a vessel, it is so important for you to release that information to the other person, because you are simply the messenger.
Right.
Especially if God gave you a message to someone that you haven't chatted with in a minute.
Yeah.
Or someone that maybe y'all not on like the coolest of terms. It's like, am I going to use my perspective and allow like maybe my pride and ego to get in the way of God's obedience? Like, God wants me to be obedient in this message and literally just deliver the mail.
Yeah.
Or am I going to be like, well, I don't know. And so those are questions we have to ask ourselves.
Yeah. And I also find it crazy how he uses me as a vessel and I don't even know I'm being used.
That's
like a big thing. Like, there's those intentional messages where you definitely feel something like, I need to reach out to this person. I just have this love or overwhelming sense of like they need something or I need to connect with them. But there's so much that I'll speak on, just like even like how I was, like we just talked about, when I came in your crib that day, there was no intention on me being I was just being myself, right? I was just being me. And I'm like, oh, y'all, like, I just got this information. Let me share that. And it was life-changing for you, for my homegirl, like, and I've noticed, like, with me, God organically just calls me to be myself, and that's being a vessel for so many other people to, because I'm just like I pour into a lot of people. I feel like that's like my thing. I know like my purpose is definitely to like speak, teach, and preach over people. Like that's just.
Say that all one more time.
Like speak, teach, and preach. And God has confirmed that to me in so many ways. And when I look at how I show up for my friends, I do that naturally. Like I like will walk in a room and just start and preaching. Like at first I was like, do you want me to?
I'm not going to lie. For someone who is newer in your faith, you speak with such a level of conviction that feels as if it's coming, if there's body, spirit, soul, it feels like it's coming from your spirit.
Yeah.
And it feels like that spirit is coming from like a higher calling, because you'll just be like, no, I feel like did it. And I'm like, hold on, this girl not backing down. Like somebody really convinced her she needs to share the message.
But I've been like that.
Yeah.
So even I would say,
so maybe God's been walking with you this whole time.
I've definitely, but that's the thing. Like I said, I've always prayed to God. I just didn't know Christ. So it's like, I've never been one to be like, God's not real. I don't believe in that. I've always been like, God told me this. I know this. It's just, there's levels to how you deepen that faith. And like I said, the season of isolation revealed, okay, you know me intimately, but like, we're going to take this to a whole nother level. I need you to know my son. I need you to know what we're really about, right? You know me. I done showed up. You done seen the works.
Come on.
So here is me now. You're ready for the revelation, because that's another thing. I might not have been ready for that revelation, okay?
Wait, say that one more time.
I might not have been ready before. I was living in a space where I might not have been able to even receive that message. It took silence. It took isolation. It took, okay, I'm able to hear. I'm able to see clearly. I'm able to receive with a different mind.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
For him to truly prune you and prepare you for the season.
Yeah, and it was uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable. That
I feel like if you're
was
not comfortable,
extremely uncomfortable for me. You know, because I'm like, I'm just waking up and I want to do things differently. My spirit doesn't align with certain things, certain people anymore, and I'm just not understanding. Because in the beginning, I'm not understanding what's going on. Yeah. It took the time, like, hold on, like, I'm going to show you why these things are happening. And having patience is a really hard thing when you're walking in your faith. Having patience is really hard, because especially the world we live in, the way that I think, the way I operate, I'm aggressive with it. I'm like,
let's get to it.
I need it to show up right now. I'm trying to get this thing going right now. Like,
get it off the ground immediately.
It's on my heart. It needs to move. It needs to come to fruition immediately. Yeah. So God doesn't work like that.
He doesn't.
So that's a whole challenge for me walking with God, where I'm like, I'm doing what I don't understand why you're not saying nothing to me for the past week. Like, what's up? Like, am I doing something wrong?
What's up? I heard you all last week, and
Yeah,
I didn't hear you
I'd be
at
like,
all
"What's
this
up?
week.
We got beef? Like,
No.
you not speaking to me?
Are you beefing with me? Is
Like,
there
did I do something
need to
wrong?
know? No, come talk to me.
My God, what's up? I didn't hear you today."
I'm crying. We're gonna shuffle the deck a little bit, though.
Okay, cool.
Because Kayla, you're a big boss, and you know that. So the question is, how do you carry the load but make it look so light?
I don't know. I feel like the load really was never that heavy until recently, because now I'm responsible for a lot of other people. So it's a different responsibility. I only had to worry about myself, and I can control that. So I'm a big factor in what you put out, what you wake up and dedicate your time to. All of those things, naturally, if you curate the right circumstances, they will give you a certain result. But God, like I said, has me in a transient season right now where I'm connected to so many people. My platform is growing. I'm pouring into individuals and coaching and developing people's mindsets and changing things. And a lot of that is not in my control.
So pause. Let's talk about your why. Why did you start Tech Level?
I feel like it was just like God. I feel like what I came to realize is that God had a lot of grace over my life, and I had a lot of privilege. I'm gonna just be honest. Like, I had access to resources, information, and I was always a curious individual, but it was different. Like, it'd be like, God, I really want to do this business, and 2 days later, I meet the right person who can connect me to another resource, and the people I got to work for and the environments I got to have access to. I'm like, this is not normal. Like, why? So I started asking, well, why? And then I'm meeting people. And I think even moving to Atlanta was a big knowing for me. Like, our culture doesn't have what I'm looking to provide. Like,
describe Atlanta in 2 words. Go.
Ratchet. No, I'm playing. I can't put it in 2 words, but I can put it in 2 phrases.
Okay.
I'd never been exposed to so much Black wealth and Black community in my life, which is a huge motivating factor for somebody like me. I grew up in predominantly like more mixed or white areas. So being able to level set and understand this is really possible for you. And, you know, I always just had this itch to move there. But when I got there, it was like, oh, this is what you needed. You needed to see other people like you making these types of moves. And that became a reality for me. And I'm very big on if something is not in your sphere of experience, it's not a reality for you.
Say that one more time.
If something's not in your sphere of experience, it will never be a reality for you. And that's why most people tell you, you need to move out your hometown. You need to do certain things to experience what it is that you truly want. If you don't know, like, for example, when I moved to Atlanta, I was like, oh my God, I have a 6-figure job. Like, this is the best thing I've
like.
I wanted,
my goodness!
I wanted
At
to
this
graduate.
young, bright age.
Yes, I was 23.
Yeah.
I'm like, I graduated college.
Talk
I made
about
it. I made it. This is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And immediately I started meeting people who was making 6 figures in a month.
Come on.
So now my reality completely just shifted. Now my goals shifted. But had I not had that exposure, and had I been around people who didn't make 6 figures, I'd be at the top of that food chain, and there would not be this desire to even do more, because I wouldn't even think.
You wouldn't know that it even existed. Therefore, you wouldn't know that it's even possible for you.
I knew people were rich, but to say like I know people making $250,000 in 4 weeks, no, I've never experienced understanding and people willingly open to share that information. And that's why
they're not gatekeeping.
I am a vessel for not gatekeeping, because
and Kayla,
I'm like,
what do I keep telling you?
You always say you're not a gatekeeper.
Kayla is not a gatekeeper.
Like, I've never been.
You know how there's that trend, like we don't gatekeep over here.
Yeah.
Like, we're the girls that don't gatekeep, we share. Yes, there's the idea of like hyperlink, you guys should shop this, shop my look. No. Kayla does not gatekeep like valuable information that may take someone an hour to find it, may take someone a week. Who are you talking to? No, we're not talking to them. We don't talk to them. Something that may take someone an hour, you give it to them instantly. Something that may take someone a week, you give that information to them instantly. You're very big on, if God gave me this, what do I benefit from keeping it? Like, what do I benefit from?
I've been like that my whole life, and it wasn't till I started all these things that I started to see the impact.
Yeah.
And so that's my why, is knowing the impact. When I tell somebody something, and if that person just has the skill set and the ability to execute in their own life, all I had to do was just share something, and that was instrumental in you changing your life or your circumstance. That's how I got to where I'm at. was by people telling me things, and me just being the type of individual that took it like, instead of just being like, I'm not a vessel of a learner. Like, I am a forever learner. I am a curious person. I am somebody who wants to receive and fulfill so much. And the only way, knowledge and wisdom is power. So if you don't have that, and you don't ask the right questions, and you don't put yourself in the right environments to be around the right people who can provide you the information you need, you're not going to climb the ladder. So I just started to realize our community's biggest disadvantage in the African American community is lack of information and resources.
That part.
It is not that we don't have the capabilities. It's not that we're not talented. We're not bright enough. We're not educated and not educated. You know what I'm saying? It's who in your family was able to break a generational curse and even provide you that insight. And if they haven't done it, you're doing this for the first time on your own. So where do you plan on getting this information? Especially if you grew up in an environment where the information was not flowing, where it was not abundant. You have to get a mentor. You have to seek people. So it's like, if God has blessed me with all these things and experiences, and what am I doing by not sharing that? It is my obligation. It's my responsibility to give back. And
I love the perspective as far as giving back, because it pours into the mindset, like, a lot of the competition is happening at the bottom. If you feel like by you sharing what's going on in your life, or a how-to step that may benefit the next person, how that's going to block you, you're thinking too small. You have to collaborate. You have to share information, because once you share, the other person shares, and now everybody's just flowing with information. And so that leads me into the next question I have for you. Let's talk about how you build capital in your corporate spaces in order to benefit you in terms of generational wealth, like years to come, all the things that God has put on your heart that you're doing on the side.
Yeah, I feel like God's given me very big dreams. You know, like, I don't feel like I'm really average when it comes to like, okay, like, I'm content with just making this or that. I don't feel like I'm like money hungry. I just feel like if I know something's possible, why am I not able to attain that? Like, why would it be off limits for me?
Like, why not me?
Yeah. Like, why not me? Like, Elon Musk is Elon Musk, but why not nobody else? Why did Jeff Bezos get the chance to do what he did? Like, because he believed he could do it. It wasn't like this person's so special and so defined that their life circumstances just, do I think that there's a destiny over everybody's life, and, you know, God has a specific plan for us? Yes. But I feel like, so no, I don't think everybody's going to be a Jeff Bezos. Like, you get what I'm saying? But I do think it is possible. If you could see something, if you could dream something, it is possible. So it's like, I wouldn't have these dreams and these, you know what I'm saying, visions of where my life was since I was young, if that wasn't a possibility for me to create.
And I'm glad that you even mentioned that, because I feel like just the example of being a Jeff Bezos, what he has done is become a subject matter expert in his lane, in his industry. That's why he's known for what he's doing. And I feel like a friend told me a couple of years ago, and this resounds with me, like, it stays and sticks with me. She kept telling me, I feel like you are moving like a Jeff Bezos when you're truly an Oprah Winfrey. So in other words, you're moving like you are one person. Like, you have one skill set. Example, he knew how he can sell books and sell it well. He rinsed and repeated that across all industries, and now we see Amazon. Oprah, you get her on an interview and you ask her, what is it you do? She's not going to say, I'm the CEO of this, I'm the founder of this. She has so many hats that she wears. So hers is almost like, it started wide and then now it expanded. His started narrow, then he rinsed and repeated and scaled it. And so when my friend had asked me and posed that question, it's like, when you know you're talented and you're gifted in so many things, you can gain capital in other areas. You can be the head of other things. You can be a subject matter expert in multiple things, and the way you introduce yourself doesn't have to be so siloed.
No, and I feel like I'm just more so big on what skills am I learning. So I don't look at jobs or like my career as like, this is my life. I look at this as like, this is a time in my life where I'm learning a specific skill set. So when I'm ready to take that skill set, what tools, it's kind of like having a toolbox. So you gain this tool, you gain that tool, and then you're able to perform different jobs, right? Like, because you got all these tools in your toolbox. But yeah, you get what I'm saying? So I've always viewed my career as a thing that I do. It's not my identity. And I feel like a lot of people are very tied, like their identity is their career, and that's not who I've been. I'm like, this is what I do to survive in a monetary subset. And from that, I have to have and perform in a certain skill set at a certain caliber of that skill set. But that doesn't mean that I can't take my skill set and go apply it to other areas of my life, right? Same way like Jeff Bezos. He could have sold books forever, but he didn't. He said, okay, how can I scale this? So for me, it's like I look at everything from, is this scalable? Is it profitable? And my time's worth something. That's how I view myself. Like my time is very, very valuable.
As
so
you should.
If I'm not really making money off something, do I care about helping people? Yes. Do I care about doing passionate things and giving back? Yes. But we are here to pay our bills. The bills is going to hit every month. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like people genuinely feel like struggling is something that's normal. And I feel like, to be honest, like it's actually more normal to say, what is a tangible plan for me to actually feel comfortable in my day-to-day life? And what does that comfort look like for you? When you identify what that comfort looks like to you, if you feel like, your level of comfort is a Bentley, well, all you need to do is make Bentley money.
That part.
Like,
and
it's not like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's not this crazy facade of like calculations. It's really like a 1 + 1 = 2. But to your point of the struggle and kind of the perspective that our community has on the struggle, I feel like a lot of people almost value or put on a pedestal those who have such a transformative story of like rags to riches.
Yeah.
Like if you got it out the mud, oh my gosh, now we have to listen to you. But if somebody doesn't have that much struggle or rather adversity in their story, do they hold the same type of weight? It's kind of like prior to me shifting into everything that I'm doing today, I was pre-med. And when I'm studying for the MCAT, they're asking questions like, when is the time that you face adversity? And based on how you answer that very subjective prompt, that will dictate if they believe that you have the bandwidth in order to muscle through your 4 years of medical school and then your residency and so on and so forth with your fellowship. And if you don't have that adversity, they don't know if you're going to be able to mentally sustain being able to take on what the responsibility is of that journey. And I feel like it's so interesting to focus so much on the struggle rather than the solution. Like if you're someone who can pivot and make solutions, you've learned from that story, you've moved forward, and it's not like, okay, well, I had to have such a rags to riches story in order to now tell my story.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't always think adversity comes with like rags, if that makes sense. Just because somebody has a lot of money, like, doesn't mean they don't struggle.
Exactly.
Right? So I do think adversity builds character. I do think adversity builds the ability to overcome things. But I don't think that means you have to be poor. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, adversity doesn't always come financially. You can have mental adversity. You can have cultural adversity. You know how many people are not comfortable working in a environment where people don't look the same color as them? That's a struggle mentally every day. So there's different struggles that you're going to face, and you need to be able to overcome and stay agile and stay adverse. But I think a lot of times people associate adversity with poverty. And I think that you don't have to be in a impoverished situation to feel like you made it out. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of that is just, like I said, lack of resources, lack of education, lack of knowledge. Because if you had the knowledge, you may not make that same financial decision, right? If you had the access. If you learned
from the mistake,
right,
whether it was your mistake or someone else's mistake.
Yeah, your parents may not have been able to financially provide for you, but what do you need to do to put yourself in a situation? Not everybody's able to leave their hometown. Not everybody has the finances to leave those environments. So it's very important to understand that, yes, sometimes it's going to be very hard. Sometimes you're in survival mode. Sometimes you have to give people grace because they're in survival mode. They don't even have time to save money. They don't have time to get out of these holes. But it's also just like you said, if I'm in this situation, instead of being drowned with the thought of struggle, I have to be able to take my mind to a place of what is the solution and how do I move forward?
I love that you touched on it. I have a few points that I want to share before we segue into the next. As far as what you just mentioned, I feel that when you expose yourself, like you mentioned, like if you have the opportunity to expose yourself to an experience that's going to get you to that next solution, why not expose yourself? I think even as you shared, moving to Atlanta was such a pivotal season in your life that helped you grow at such a rate. I feel the same in terms of I had the opportunity to move to Chicago.
Yeah.
And I think that if I didn't get out of my comfort zone, I'm born and raised in Dallas.
Yeah.
So you come in, I'm like, welcome to the city.
Yeah.
And I remember we would go around and you'd be like, oh, let's try this spot. Let's try that spot. And I'm like, oh, I think I've been here, or I don't think I've been here. And I changed my perspective of like, okay, well, let me look at Dallas in the lens of someone who's new to the city.
Yeah.
And not look at Dallas in the lens of this is my hometown. Because if I was able to grow at such a rate when I lived in Chicago, and I was able to like shake and jive because you stayed on your toes because you're not in your comfort zone,
Right.
it's only because of the perspective that you had,
Right.
versus getting too lax and too comfortable. Okay, so let's jump into the next question. Keep the ball rolling.
Okay.
What advice do you have to all younger women who aspire to be an influencer?
Find your niche, right? Like, what are you going to influence, and what value do you add to a certain area? I think that influencing is a very vast term, and I feel like for a long time I just felt like I just wanted to post stuff on social media and my page go up, but it wasn't until I really found a specific niche, a specific need of people who needed some type of influence that I was able to add value. So I think that would be my advice. Like, once you find the value or identify the value that you have, you can then build an audience that you can influence. You know what I mean?
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because I feel like when it comes to influencing, even just the word influencing, everybody has some level of influence.
Yeah.
If you can persuade, rather, someone to join your thought process, you have influenced them. You have influence over them. And so just putting that on the scale of social media and seeing how that grows. But I like what you mentioned as far as finding your niche, but also identifying their need. Because if you're going to influence people, there has to be some type of value that's coming to them as to why they're even influenced by you. Next question for you. What is your strategic vision for 2024?
I think just really scaling my like coaching and mentoring program for helping people break into tech sales. So yeah, I really want to do 2,000 people this year. Like, that's my goal. I would say that is the goal. I don't know. That's just been my number. Like, and I help a lot of people per month. So I feel like just being able, if I did that, it'd be like about 600 people per month coming through the coaching. And yeah, I think just being able to, around 500 people a month is kind of where I would love to see my coaching business grow to, helping that many people really find their footing, whether that's in understanding sales and marketing or really landing a job in technology and changing their lives, being able to attain to make 6 figures. I think that'd be really cool. Obviously keep growing the channel. I would love to hit 100K or more this year. At like, you know, it's growing. It's not that close, but it's definitely getting there.
But
so
you're
I'm
getting
like,
there.
yeah. So I'm like, just breaking 100K, and just really being a vessel on my podcast to keep educating our community, keep giving them the resources and tools to change their life. Yeah, so just really more impact, really, is what I would say. Like, way more impact. Now that I feel like I understand the impact that I have and how I've helped people change their lives, it's just to reach more.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks.
I feel like all of the questions to you have come to a little bit of an end. This is the portion of the podcast where I make all of my guests essentially the main character of their own show. So you guys get to host and y'all get to ask me a question. So what question do you have for me?
Do you feel like you're walking in your purpose?
I'm glad you asked. I do. I really do. I feel like God has shown me many signs and revelations that confirm that I'm walking in my purpose. And you even got to see all of that when we went to church the other Sunday. Just how many things were like popping up. It's like, wait, confirmation. And I feel like all of these things would not happen if I wasn't exactly where I'm supposed to be. Having like friends that I haven't chatted with in a minute randomly reach out and be like, hey Liz, God just put it on my heart to check in on you. And like, I just want you to know I'm rooting for you. Like, just those random things. God has told me, like, the stars just seem to be aligning. Like, if this is a game board, the stars are aligning. And I'm just like, whoa, this is what it feels like when you're aligned with what God's will is. Instead of trying to, skirt off and do your own thing. Like, he will always have a bigger plan for you. He's always going to look at your plan and be like, that's cute. Like, okay, you can keep trying that. But like, I promise you, the moment you come over here, it's going to be abundant. So
I love that for you.
Thanks. And then this is the portion of the podcast that I like to call Pass the Mic.
Okay.
So it's where the last guest from the last episode asked you a question, not even knowing who the next guest is going to be. Is it a man? Is it a woman? What industry are they in?
Okay.
What do they look like? Nothing,
Yes.
None of that. They have no idea who you are. They ask you a question, and then you also get to ask them a question.
Okay.
And so you're about to answer their question. Last episode was with Donnie.
Okay.
And her question to you is, what is a habit you've developed that has helped you the most with your self-development?
Carving out time to tune in with myself daily. Like, that's a thing that most people just don't do. Like, you'd be surprised how many people don't take a moment to themselves every single day. And you really can't understand where you're at and the things you need to work on if you don't create that space and time to tap in with yourself. What does my body need from a sleep perspective? What do I need from a mental perspective? What do I need from a food perspective to keep me energized? Mm-hmm. What do I need from a spiritual perspective, right? So identifying the different areas of your life that need to be poured into and effectively creating like a showing up for myself day in and day out to pour into those things is something I would say that definitely became a habit for me. Like, if I don't spend time with myself, I feel just like out of whack. Like, I feel like, you know, what I got going on? My mental is not there. Like, I need to pour into myself. So prioritizing myself, pouring into myself, and spending time with myself, carving that time out daily. Like, definitely think that's a habit that I've adopted in the past year. That's allowed me to like really prioritize myself, and I've seen how that's affected every area of my life so much.
I love that. I love that. And then now the question that you have for our next guest.
I'd probably say, have you identified your why? Yeah, because that's like something I'm definitely trying to challenge myself to. I know my why, but there's so many other whys that you'll ask around the main why that you need to like peel back. And I feel like, it's definitely a good question.
I love that. Well, I can't wait to hear and see how they choose to answer and what their why is. But we feel like you have been walking in your why, and you are getting closer to walking in your why. So thank you so much for coming onto the Empowered Era podcast and be my guest.
Me.
This has been a lot of fun.
I know. I love this.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So where can the people stay in contact with you, keep up with you?
So if you want to follow me, my name's just Kayla Burke on YouTube. We do weekly vlogs. We got the Big Boss Energy podcast. If you're interested, that's on Apple and YouTube, and all the visuals and vocals, or audio, I should say. And then, if you are interested in leveling up your tech career, www.thetechlevel.com. We do group coaching and mentorship. It's a boot camp and developmental program that helps people either transfer industries or break into technology sales, which I've been doing for about 7 years now. So that's the baby. If you want to change your life, get into tech, get at me.
Get into it.
Yes, but that's where you can find me.
Okay, I love it. Well, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, honey.